Shalom, all praises unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Ruach Quadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the hopeful elect Akim that are teaching this word. Shalom, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Ruach Quadash. And as you can see here, this is a video called The Wild Truth about Dennis Rodman's family. We know, Dennis Rodman is the basketball player from the Chicago Bulls who, played with Michael Jordan. Quite like an outlandish kind of character, Dennis Rodman. But pretty much the point what I wanted to get at this video is I saw some information here about his father, all right, who's a military man, that I believe fought in the Vietnam War and, ended up, setting up his life in like the Southeast Asia region. And I believe it was in the Philippines. So I'm going to play this clip here. And, basically he's got children with women from those countries, pretty much from outside of America, from Southeast Asia. So Vietnam, Filipino women. He's got women with them other nations, basically. So I wanted to play this to, to just, prove a point that Jake is scattered, basically. And then I've got some scriptures lined up. So let me play this clip here because it's got some good information.
And ran off from the force where he had served for 17 years. His destination of elopement and the start of his new life became the Philippines. He ran a bar there, but his new marriage only lasted until 1977. He continued with other women, brought more babies into this world, and never looked back to his first family, unfortunately. Well, at least until Dennis became a rich NBA star. He resurfaced again after that, appearing on Philippine television, taking interviews concerning Dennis. It was during one of these interviews, which reports say he usually charged for, that he made some painful revelations. Now married to 2 Filipino ladies, Philander finally opened up about his promiscuous lifestyle. First, he justified it by saying he was a Muslim, and then he excused his abandonment of his first family to his own father, Philander Sr., who also left him as a kid. He further blamed the fact that black families suffered so much during this time that the fathers couldn't take pressure anymore and had to leave for a better life. He revealed that he currently had 27 children from 4 different wives and other concubines, and he was still open to further procreation. And when they talked about the autobiography,
that's pretty much there you go. So let me play that again.
Made more money from his famous son by not only charging, and that doesn't mean I have. They think Dennis is bad. The fathers couldn't take pressure anymore and had to leave for a better life. He revealed that he currently had 27 children from 4 different wives.
27 children from 4 different wives. This is Dennis Rodman's father, all right? And they were women of the other nations. So they were women from the Southeast Asia region. So the Filipinos, the Vietnamese, Burmese, Thai women, So there's a lot of Jake over there, man. And this is from Dennis Rodman's father alone. So let me play this here. And that's part of the prophecy also that our people would be scattered, all right? So let me read these scriptures here. This is Deuteronomy 28 and 64. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people from the one end of the earth even unto the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. So our people will be scattered pretty much among all people. So you got our people among, because imagine Dennis Rodman's father now is a so-called black man, right? And he's had children with the Filipino women. Their sons, his sons, he's going to have that mixed complexion look. Might look a little bit like mixed with a bit of, a bit of Moab and Jake, right? Then his son now goes and gets another Filipino woman. What happens? They're going to look more like the Filipinos, all right? So we get mingled, man. And you see when the Lord, it's part of the curse was like, pretty much we can have them as concubines, but we couldn't marry them. Because what happens when we marry the women of the other nations is pretty much what happens is, we'll start more than likely following their customs and way of life. We forget ours, man, which is what our King Solomon did, all right? The sin weren't in popping the women of the other nations. The sin was in, pretty much marrying them and worshipping their idols, basically, because that's what our King Solomon did. He built idols unto their gods, basically. All right. And that's what happened to Jake. That was part of our curses. So the Lord, it said, and the Lord shall scatter thee among all people from the one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. And that's what's happened. Our people have been scattered among the other nations, all right? Had children with them other nations. Their children now have children with those other nations' women. And then what happens over time, we look like those people and we're worshiping their customs. All right. So over time, our people have forgotten who they are, man. All right. Which is biblical prophecy. So I'm going to read this one here as well. This is, I'm going to read this one here. And you see, it said Dennis Rodman, just his father alone had 27 children. All right. So the clip just said 27 children with 4 different concubines from those lands. All right. So this is Nehemiah 13 and 23. Nehemiah 13 and 23. It says, in those days also saw I, this is part of our history. So it says, in those days also saw I Jews that had married wives of Ashdod and Ammon and of Moab. So the Jews, which is who? So-called Negroes today, right? So you got to picture this in the mind. It was the so-called black man back then during the time of Nehemiah, which is a tribe of Judah. So-called Negroes today, they're called, but they're the tribe of Judah, right? You won't know, because you know when you read the scriptures, you got to picture Jake in your mind. You know, you got to picture men of color, man. So it says, in those days also I saw, it's lucky, it says, in those days also saw I Jews that had married the wives of Ashdod, all right? And then it says, and of Ammon, which is, who's Ammon? The Japanese women today. And of Moab, who's Moab? The Chinese women today. So our people were basically marrying them, all right? That was where the sin was, marrying them, not popping them. And it says, and their children spake half in the speech of Ashdod. So they spake half in the Jews' language, in the Hebrew, and could not, Salakia. Let me repeat that, Salakia. And their children spake half in the speech of Ashdod. So they spoke the other languages, right? Another language. It says, and could not speak in the Jews' language, but according to the language of each people. So they were speaking the language of their mothers, basically. And that's part of it as well, because our people will start to lose their customs, all right? See, in the kingdom of heaven, when we get these other nations, right, and we get their women, like we get the so-called white women, we get the Moab women, the South Korean women, when we pop them, all right, when we pop them, you know, that's just basically what it's going to be. We're just going to basically have them as pretty much as concubines. We ain't going to be marrying them and going off, all right? We're not going to be going into all of their customs and stuff. We're just going to be popping them, all right? Like what we're allowed to do, all right? We ain't going to be going off. That's where Jake was going off, you know, and we still do it till this day, is they were getting into all the customs of those people, man. All right, so it says, and their children spake half in the speech of Ashdod and could not speak in the Jews' languages. They forgot they forgot their ways, basically. But according to the language of each people, so the priests were angry at this time. And I contended with them and cursed them and smote certain of them and plucked off their hair and made them swear by the power, saying, ye shall not give your daughters unto their sons, nor take their daughters unto your sons, or for yourselves. Did not Solomon, king of Israel, sin by these things? Yet among many nations was there no king like him, who was beloved of his power, and the power made him king over all Israel. Nevertheless, even him did outlandish women cause to sin. Exactly, because how did them outlandish women cause King Solomon to sin? Because he married them and built temples unto their gods, basically, all right? You see, that was the curse in Deuteronomy. What did it say in Deuteronomy 28? That, you know, in the lands where we're scattered, we'll worship other powers, basically idol worshipping, you know, heathen gods and stuff. And a lot of that was also due to, you know, marrying those women also, all right? And that's what happens when you have like when our people don't have the understanding of Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shai, they don't know how to conduct themselves. All right, meaning like a Jake will get with an Edomite woman and be all up into her customs. All right, start eating bacon, start doing all that off shit. Start eating the meat with blood in it, rare, super rare, not uncooked, following their way of life. When in all reality, how it is you pop them, the women of them other nations, and they follow what you say, your customs. That's how it's meant to be, and that's how it's gonna be in the kingdom. When we pop these heathen women, we're gonna, we're gonna be under. They're gonna be under our order, under the order of the nation of Israel, our way of life. They're gonna follow what we do, not us following into them. All right. So it says, shall we then hearken unto you to do all this great evil, to transgress against our power in marrying strange wives? All right. Yeah. So that's basically part of the curses of our people, that we basically, and that's, but the point is I wanted to make is we're scattered basically. Even back then, the Jews, so you have to picture like, the beginning of the video was who? Dennis Rodman's father. He's out there, he was popping them Filipino women. And that was happening back in the time of Nehemiah. So-called Israelite men from the tribes was popping the women of the other nations. And that's been happening. It's happened till this day, man. And what happens now, for example, I made the example, let's say, a Jake man pops a Moabite woman, the child looks more like a Moabite, the son looks more like that nation, then he has another woman from that nation. What happens over time, that child starts to look more like a Filipino, a Vietnamese. They don't look like they're going back to their great-great-grandfather. They look more like the nation they're mingled among. All right, but their lineage goes back to who? That so-called Negro man, or that so-called Puerto Rican man, or that so-called Argentinian man of the tribes of Israel. All right, so this is part of the history. So I'm going to read this here. This is Psalms 106. Psalms 106 and Psalms 106 and where was I? Psalms 106. Salakia. Bear with me a second. Okay, Psalms 106 and 34. It says, they did not destroy the nations concerning whom the Lord commanded them, but were mingled among the heathen and learned their works. Or I'll read it from 35. Psalms 106 and 35. But were mingled among the heathen and learned their works, and they served their idols, which were a snare unto them. Exactly. So this part of the curses that's happened to our people. We've been mingled amongst the heathen. So you've got Israelites in the land of China, in the land of India. You got Israelites in Russia. You got Israelites in Georgia. You got Israelites in South America. Israelites are in, Greenland. Anywhere in the world. I've got like a map in front of me, man. Israelites are in the land of Africa. All right. South Africa, Madagascar. You got Israelites in Australia. Wherever, New Zealand, anywhere in the planet Earth, the children of Israel are there. Iceland, there's Israelites scattered everywhere in the planet, man. Kazakhstan, Iran, Iraq. We were mingled among the heathen and learned, and we're mingled among all these different nations that live in those places. All right. So, for example, we're in the land of Russia. Who's predominantly the people that rule Russia? So-called white people, Edomites, right? Well, guess what? You have Israelites mingled among them. In the land of Iran, who's the people that predominantly rule there? The Persian people, the Elamites, the Persians, right? Well, guess what? You got Israelites amongst them in those lands. Saudi Arabia, who predominantly rules Saudi Arabia? The children of Ishmael. But guess what? You've got Israelites mingled amongst them. So, but were mingled among the heathen and learned their works. But guess what? Our people have, over the time, learned the customs of the people they were scattered among, just like it says, and learned their works, man. And they served their idols, which were a snare unto them. Exactly, because we forgot who we were. Whenever our people go, that's called spiritual fornication. Our people worship other gods, right? The Lord hates that. He worships idols, man. The Lord hates that, man. And that's big amongst Jake today, man. Jake's into Buddhism, Islam, moon rock worship, all of that. So that's massive amongst the Israelites today, the Jakes today, the 2/3. See, the elect, we're coming back to Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai. And for prophecy's sake, we bring this information up because it's all part of the prophecy, man. So I'm going to read this here as well. Revelation 7 and Revelation 7, Salakia, bear with me, and 9. This is the great multitude, which is the Israelite foreigners. Revelation 7 and 9. After this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which this is going to be happening in the end days. John the Revelator got these visions All right, in the book of Revelation. Revelation 7 and 9. After this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues. All right, so that great multitude is scattered Israelites. That's why it said of all nations and kindreds and people, because our people are mingled all over the planet, but they're the lineage of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Of all nations, kindred, and people and tongues stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands, and cried with a loud voice, saying, Salvation to our power, which sitteth upon the throne, and unto the Lamb. All right. So that's basically, the great multitude is the Israelite foreigners that are going to be delivered also. That's what John the Revelator saw. All right. So it says, so that's why it said of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues. All right. Because our people are all over the world speaking the languages where we've been scattered. All right. Stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands. Yeah, because they're going to be delivered also, because we're going to be taken from all the nations we've been mingled also, because we're the lineage of Israel. The Lord's going to correct us, man, and clean us up and bring us back to righteousness, man, worshiping him, put us back in even any brothers that are Israelite foreigners. Well, technically all Israel. When Yahushua returns, we're going to get them new bodies, man. You might have a brother from the Philippines, looks like a Filipino. Well, guess what? When he gets beamed up, he's going to look like the respected tribe that he's from. He might be a Judite man. You're going to get back that flesh of the tribe he's from. When we get them new bodies, he ain't going to look like the heathens where he was scattered anymore. So we're waiting for that. So that's part of the history. So yeah, man. I mean, yeah, that's the point I wanted to just get that out there, man. Pretty much. Even when you see going back into that beginning video, Dennis Rodman's father, he's got children all over the Philippines, man. All over Vietnam. And what are they? They're Judites mingled over there. Whatever tribe Dennis Rodman's from. His children, his nephews and nieces and all that are there. All right? So it just goes to show you how vastly scattered the Israelites are, and it fits the prophecy of who the Negroes, Latinos, Native American people are, right? In the scriptures, the scattered Israelites, man. They're children of Israel. So with that, I'm going to say all praises unto Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Ruach HaKodesh. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and shalom to the hopeful elect Akim that are teaching this word. Shalom Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Ruach HaKodesh. Shalom, shalom.